Satnam, I'm Lillian Savoy at Awaken Change Podcast, and I have Dr. Colleen Quinn on with me today, and I'm so excited to dig into her, she calls it software, in her brain and into her heart, and merge it together using pieces of her book called Essence Merging, and we're going to just find out what she can do to help us today, because she has different assisted therapies. So why don't we, because I think this is a hot topic, assisted therapies, because sometimes we don't feel like we can do the stuff at home, even though that's pretty much what my podcast is about. Dr. Colleen, is being able to help yourself in the moment at home with your toolbox, with the tools, whether it be breath work, yoga, meditation, dancing, laughter. I really am a proponent of all of those, but you take it on a whole other level too, where people do need more assistance and maybe more accountability by going into seeing somebody or having a session at a scheduled time with somebody, or just someone else's opinion sure helps, right? Not always, but a lot of the time it does. So please give us a little quick, how did you become a doctor? Because that's awesome. And what is your main passion right now?
I love those questions. I started undergraduate as a religious studies major, and I went to a very secular university, VCU, and really all the classes were framed around why there is no higher power. And I said, I cannot align with this. In every test, I'd say, here's what you taught. Here's what I know to be true.
Oh, and did you fail every test?
I got A's because I could spit out what they said, but
okay.
And they respected my autonomy, I think. But the first class I took in psychology was parenting. And I had young children. And I sat there and I thought, well, this would be good to know before I had these children. This would have been really helpful. I will say that after I got my degree, I mentored lots of young women. I have 2 sons, and so they're all kind of like my work daughters.
Yes.
Well, my first woman that I mentored for the state of Wisconsin teaches mindfulness to every pregnant couple.
Oh,
I
wow.
love that. So I'm like the grandmother of this program, and she has a grant for that. Philanthropic people said, we want to make an awake, present, compassionate culture in the state of Wisconsin. And so Dr. Larissa Duncan heads that up. So I love that. And, the word psychology means study of the soul. There are so many paths up the mountain. Love responds to every name that we call her, in every religious tradition. And at the core of all those traditions is a vibrant relationship with this unseen being. And so that's really been my motivation and focus all along. It is interesting that you said, Lillian, sometimes it's good to seek another person's opinion. And while I do agree with that, everyone who comes to me for therapy, when they ask me my opinion, I never tell them, because I say all of the answers are inside of you.
They are.
Yeah.
We know this. We're taught this, but not everybody is taught that, So you had to be the person to tell them the answers are inside of you.
And teach them the way to go in. So that is really powerful, because the only real ways that I have found to go in all involve conscious breath work. So conscious breathing is great to drop us into the moments of our lives, but breath work opens the door to your own soul that has all the answers. Breathwork's part of yoga. It's part of meditation. It's part of psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. You're always And what's fascinating is in your brain, there's a well-grooved pathway. It's like 9 pathways. We call it the default mode network. That maps directly onto Freud's construct of the ego. And it's shown on MRIs. Well, when that quiets down, we get into our midbrain. It's the seat of our soul. It's where all of our emotions are stored. Our heart opens up, and we are now leading an intuitive, fully awakened brain heart experience. Breath work is the gateway to open all of that up.
I totally agree. And I mean, this is just like listening to just some beautiful song, because all of the years of breath work I've done, I've been on a 6-year journey with Kundalini yoga and just finished my 500 hour. But it took me 6 years. The breath work is just, it feels like someone is giving you just pure love that you cannot get from a human.
Absolutely. So I have come to realize energetically what's going on. I'd love to share this.
Share.
So we have these physical forms, and then we have these energy bodies. And we can talk about the proof for the energy body in a little bit, but assuming we have these energy bodies, what happens in breath work is that energy body comes out of our physical form. And because God really is the electromagnetic field running through every single cell is 99.999% space. And that very intelligent, loving, cohesive field that whirls around those nanoparticles is God. It's in every inanimate and animate object. So this desk that seems so solid, it's 99.99% space. You, Lillian, are 99.99% space. Well, when that energy body, that space loosens from the physical form, it naturally magnetizes to the whole, to that collective energy running through everything that is God. That is the state of union that we all remember from before the Big Bang. When we're in that state of union, we feel bliss and we call it love. But the true act is the union. And a great way that people can experience this, most of us have experienced having sex versus making love. In making love, there is no you, there is no other, there's just one. There's that union. That's exactly what happens in breath work. You're in that state of remembrance of that wholeness of who you really are. And physiologically, what happens, which you talked about doing the Kundalini, your 500 hours, we have these crystals in our cerebral spinal fluid. Kundalini and breath work squeeze those crystals to compress them in the ventricles next to the pineal gland. They put a massaging pressure on the pineal gland, and out comes DMT. Do you know what that is, Lillian?
I do, but I don't know what it actually stands for, DMT. Something therapy.
No, it's a chemical, and it's a really long name, and I don't have it memorized either, but it's the active ingredient in plant medicines. What makes psychedelics psychedelic.
Yes. Okay. All right. It's coming back.
Well, what's fascinating is most people think they're just in these select plants. I'm pretty sure they're in every living being, but they lay dormant until they're activated. This Kundalini breath work puts that pressure on the pineal gland to release them. Well, when they get released, they enter the cells with messages of well-being. So you're in bliss. On a PET scan, your whole brain is lit up. So not just those 9 pathways, the whole brain is lit up that is powerful. That's when you're getting visual images, receiving auditory downloads, having deep somatic visceral experiences that seem as vibrant as your waking life. That DMT comes into the cells with a message of well-being, and you actually retain more interstitial fluid in your cells so that you can amplify at a higher frequency. Mm. That is amazing, that what we do in this physical realm affects the energy realm, and what we do in the energy realm affects the physical realm.
Oh, you are speaking my language, because I think, I need to do this more. You're reminding me that I need to say this more out loud, but in my private sessions, I really work on the energetic body, because if we're not working on the energetic body, it's not manifesting in the physical form. Exactly what you just said in your own words, right? And 99% of the people, I think, this is just my opinion, work on the physical, and forget their energetic body, unless the 1% of us that are doing, the breath work and the yoga, and that number will change over time. It would be interesting to see, like, in the world, how many people do work on the energetic body. Wouldn't that be cool? But that would be like a fantastic study, even to do like places like India and Africa, and where they have all the drumming and the dancing. I mean, they're working on the energetic body, with all the ceremonies. And so, but I think, like, right now in physical form in the US, it's very physical. Like, how do we cure chronic disease with physical stuff and supplements and injections, and instead of having the mindset, like, if we work on the energetic body, then it corrects the physical body.
That's right. And so I have two things to say about that. First of all, there is a plethora of new research coming out that we've known for years that the root of all disease is stress. Well, they're taking that a step further, saying that the root of all disease is unprocessed dense emotions. Emotion is energy in motion. When you're holding that in, that becomes the root of all disease. And there's just a ton of research. So even if you don't like spiritual terms and they seem too out there, there's science to back this up now. And then I'll go back to my spiritual world. So Leonard Orr is the one who's widely known to have brought breathwork to the West from India. Leonard Orr believed that it's a myth. It's programmed into our software that we can only live to be 120 years old, that we have these telomeres on the end of our DNA. They're like erasers. Every time our DNA gets replicated, we're shortening our life. They can't replicate, but only so many times. He said intrinsically that's a myth. So he heard stories of people living to be 1,000 years old in India, and he decided he was going to go find them. He wrote a book called Dispelling the Death Myth. He found 14 people in India that were over 1,000 years old.
I've never heard of this.
He has a book, Dispelling the Death
Myth.
To
get it.
And,
Dispelling the what?
The death myth.
Okay.
And he himself has passed over, and he said at the end of his life, this software is so hard to reprogram. He wished he had been more vigorous about it, and he felt like he could not break through. Obviously, they have cultural support in India. But yeah, he found 14 people, and there's an expose on each one of them. And it is, we're programmed from the time we got here. You can only live to 120. It's on you to reprogram yourself.
I've definitely heard the 120 in all my yoga stuff, like 120. Like, where did they come up with the 120? But it was like, and I said that just yesterday when I made a video. I said, we're trying to make it to 120, because a lot of people can't even fathom, my mom included, living past her parents when they died. And I think they were 94. So, even getting past that construct of, oh, I can make it past 94. Oh, I can make it past 120. Even that thought is, just so unreal.
Well, and actually, I love that you brought your parents up as an example, because that is a perfect example of subconscious programming.
Yes.
If my parents lived in 94, I can't make it past that. And really, I think since your program is Awake and Change, we need to talk about 95% of the things we do are motivated by subconscious programming.
Oh, let's dig into that, because that is my favorite topic. Literally, my favorite topic.
Wow. Well, the only way to make the subconscious conscious is breath work.
Amazing.
That's the only way. It's amazing how breath work, let me rephrase. Psychedelics can do that and meditation can do that.
I was going to say, we have to add in meditation because that is breath work.
They all involve breath work. So
yes.
I'm using them under the broader umbrella.
Yes.
Here's the reality, though. Of those three, breath work is the middle path. I call it the middle path because it's gentler.
It is.
So you're going to work with your ego's pace of readiness, your soul will. It's not going to thrust you right into your subconscious. You're going to have lots of bliss trips first. And then as your soul knows that these wounded children that make up your ego, these conditioned patterns are starting to trust your soul, they will throw up like popcorn memories that you may have never thought of before, or you haven't thought of in years and years. And you're hovering over those experiences, looking down through the eyes of love. So you're not blended and reacting. You're not in it. There's a separation, but you can now finally feel it. The two things that need to happen to change the way traumatic energy is stored in our bodies is you have to fully feel it. And then you have to complete the actions that did not get completed at the time that left you feeling like a victim. Because we're not victims, we're victors. But that's the rewriting of the nervous system. So breath work gently does this by allowing you to hover over, and then you're feeling the impulses of what your body needed to do. And your body naturally does it. So a great example, Lillian, that I'd like to share with your community, I was a baby of womb trauma. My mother had experienced domestic violence, and she was hospitalized twice during her pregnancy with me.
Wow. For what?
For domestic violence. They weren't concerned for her safety. They were concerned for my safety.
Yours. Okay.
And now I can say this calmly now, and for years I could recite it just as calmly because I had never felt it. It wasn't until breath work, where it was a guided rebirthing experience the first time. I was so deep in the experience. I'm in a retreat with 30 other people, and it's like being underwater when you're in breath work. So I'm hearing this sound like an animal with their hand caught in a trap. And I'm like, I came out of it enough to think, wow, somebody's really having a hard time with this. And then I realized it was me.
Oh.
That's how much stuck energy I had carried around for 50 years that I hadn't dealt with that. And you can go back to your womb and even prior lives in breath work when you really fully surrender. I don't want to make this sound like a one and done, though. I had to go in hundreds of times. My body needed to rebirth off the side of a couch hundreds of times for this rewiring to be complete till it didn't have the impulse to do that anymore. And I was birthed in from a place of choosing to be here instead of like just being a victim and thrust in here.
Yeah. And picking because people always ask me, well, why did I pick my parents? Why did I pick these abusive people or these neglected people or, if we're doing a past life journey or, something. And I'm like, because it's the lesson that you need to learn. And I love that you're telling us about you had to go in 100 times or breath work, and revisit it, because it's not a one-time healing. It's not a one-time healing. I'm doing a lot of healing with my mom right now. And, who knew that a puppy would change her entire demeanor, her entire thing, her entire relationship with me. And, I'm seeing my mom twice a day, just helping her with the puppy, and she's 78. And it is bringing up so much stuff. I mean, stuff from childhood, stuff from teenager, stuff from mid-adult, how I run my life, why I made the decisions I do, why I live here again. Like just seeing her twice a day. I am revisiting it 100 times in the last 4 weeks. It's so intense. Some days I'm just like, I'm so exhausted. I don't really know why. And then I was like, ooh, wait, I do know why, because I'm mother healing. Let's call it whatever it is. I'm mother healing, right? And I love that you said that, because it's not a one-time thing. It's a revisit. It's a revisit. It's a revisit.
Right. And along that topic, I think we need to talk about the wounded children that live inside of us.
So many.
Well, and that's a big part of these conditioned patterns that come from our subconscious, that we're like, how am I in this unfulfilling relationship again? How did I lose my job? How am I sick? We don't even see these children get born when our parents judge us, when they reject any part of us. And we need to stay in their good graces because they are responsible for all of our care. So whatever our parents judge, we reject within ourselves. And we push these parts of ourselves deep into our subconscious. You're not wanted here. Well, now you're out of the wholeness. You're out of integrity. You've disintegrated inside. And what happens is those children, they want to protect us, and they have very immature coping. So they will come up when they're activated, if they're afraid, if they're depressed, if they're frustrated, and they will blend with you. Your consciousness your higher self is no longer in the moment, but you're blended with this wounded child. And these diatribes, these thoughts, bantering in our heads, they're all our wounded children. They're all our ego. And they want to control. They want to hold on very tightly.
Yes. So much control.
And yet that is an illusion.
Yeah.
This is a free fall into the mystery. What is going to happen in the next minute is unknown to you or me.
Yes.
And so it's amazing how our souls want us to be comfortable in the free fall, which feels like often, Lillian, if we're being candid, it feels like I'm skydiving when it's really probably like I'm floating down a river, right? Fully wrapped and, cocooned and cared for. It feels slow, like I'm going down the river when I'm in my conscious breath. Once I lose my conscious breath, and that's different from breath work. Breath work, you're lying down, you're having a conversation with your soul. Your conscious breath, you should be in it every moment walking around. It stills your brain. I love that you started with the mantra Sat Nam. That's a great bridge. If you've got a lot going on in your brain, just repeat a mantra Satnam's my favorite because it means I am that which I gaze upon. There is no separation. There's only this experience. So that fuels my intention energy, which is one of the most powerful energies in this realm. If my intention is I'm just the experience, I'm fully merged. There is no you, there is no me. That's the highest frequency there is.
Yeah.
So using mantras, using the conscious breath, coming back moment by moment. Breath is the only function in our bodies that can be done unconsciously or consciously. That's not random. Unconsciously, it nourishes our physical forms, our cells. What a great gift.
Yes.
Consciously, in addition to that, we're taking in the higher frequencies, which helps us. It quiets down all the mental chatter, lights up our frontal cortex, drops us into this moment. It is the gateway to presence, and you can come back anytime. I notice I'm out of my breath when I'm rushed. That's the most.
Me too. I hold my breath when I'm rushed instead of realizing that there's no such thing as time and that time is infinite. Time can be stretched and time can be negotiated and time can be. I wrote a chapter on time, and it's just when you really do just relax and know that time is non-existent. You know, we may have to show up at 9 to 3 or come to a podcast at 10 o'clock, right? But it's like, in general, why are we rushing? Why are we? And I want to bring this up because you touched on something with the breath work. It brings us into the present. And what I notice, and this is just, probably why, you're always attracted to what you need to learn, right? And a lot of the clients that I get are I call them future thinkers, right? Mm-hmm. And that my daughter and my mom and obviously me, but even though I don't feel like that's me, sometimes when I come back to me, I'm like, oh, I think it is me. But
I love that because you're taking a blind spot, making it conscious. So go ahead. Yeah, I'm proud of you.
And I think it is a blind spot that we're always thinking about the next event, the next thing, the next work thing, the next work client, the next event. It's just that wheel never stops until you get into the breath work and actually sit down and meditate or become conscious of your breath. Then all of a sudden the future disappears because there's no such thing as the future. And that's so benefiting to our health. And, we can take all the supplements we want and make all the money we want and connect with as many people as we want. But if we're really not in the present, we're actually missing the moment.
All of the juiciness of life, all of the sacredness.
The fun stuff. Like what you're talking about, the higher power. And I think the higher power for me, I could just speak for me. The higher power was ruined by me going to church all the time.
Yeah.
So that I had to rediscover God, rediscover the higher power, rediscover my love for infinity, because I was in the system. And I just had this conversation with my mom the other day, because I'm obviously doing mother healing. And I was like, Mom, y'all made me go to church every Sunday. And Dad made me go to youth group every Sunday. And then I went on church trips and mission trips and Wednesday night things. And she's like, well, don't you think it was great? I'm like, no, because I have no foundation, because I was learning from, shame and judgment and you should be here and you should do this and you need to do this. And we have to go build houses for poor people. It's like, I can just go build a house for a poor person if I want to. And get on a plane and do it right now. I don't need to be told to go to church to do that,
Well, and the most, I love that you're realizing that was part of the indoctrination of your subconscious, right? It comes in and becomes that programming that you have to disassemble. And it's most insidious is the shame. I spend a lot of time in my book talking about my journey to integrate, to shed the shame and integrate those energies. And what's probably the most powerful gift of doing that work, as I spirit and my soul at my pace of readiness, I was, in this journey for years, when it flashed up my greatest shame, which I had buried so deeply that I worked in residential treatment. And when kids would talk about their shame, I would say, well, shame is the one emotion I never feel, inwardly to myself. Why didn't I feel it? Because I buried it so deeply. Yet it's having profound effects on my health and well-being. Well, at my ego's readiness, those memories popped up. And so did, as is common on this journey, a confluence of events to get me to speak about this shame and get it out of me and come to a new relationship with it. Because you don't fully shed these energies, you just harmonize them.
Yeah, you have to integrate them. I do it. I learned it in Reiki when they were, called it, or Rainbow Reiki, and he called it part personalities. So we have to integrate all the part personalities. And it's kind of funny that we're talking about this, because the last, I would say, 2 months, I've been integrating people's part personalities with the cosmos and all the planets. And it's been so fun with my gong. And I'm just like, wow, there's so many parts of us that we don't even know. Like you're saying, we shove them so deep down inside. We don't even realize the shame's there. I mean, I realize my shame's there, but, just there's other things that I'm not aware about that we're always awakening to and always changing to and always bringing out. So that's why, I want to talk about like how because I'm kind of scared about the ketamine-assisted therapy, but we used to have one here, but I've heard mixed reviews on that. And obviously a lot of people ask me if I do plant-based therapy and ayahuasca trips, which I do not. I don't want to be thrown into that kind of analysis with my subconscious, shall we say. So
it's a throwing in.
Yeah, because I like it slow and low, and I like it gentle, and I like to journal. And so that's how I teach people to do it. But I know there's a ton of people out there that like to just kind of be thrown into things. And so can you share, what's that like if someone wants to learn about their subconscious and what programming they have or what indoctrination they have, would they ask themselves like, okay, am I the type of personality that can be thrown into that and learn, or should I take it slow and low, or what?
I mean, I believe that our own souls are always going to give us the way to go. Okay. Always. If we kind of put that question out to the universe and your own soul, you will get an answer.
Yes.
But I will say, I live in the land of Baltimore. Baltimore is the hub of most psilocybin research, for sure. We got the first IRB approvals to do that research after it was shut down for over 20 years. So a very vibrant plant medicine community here. What they do at Hopkins with psilocybin is they will give you a hero's dose. Now that means that you are launched off. You're really having that journey, and the therapist is going to hold your hand and say very little, and you're going to have therapy after that for, it could be, a few sessions to years over that one journey to really integrate it for as long as it needs. So, but all of the processing of it will happen afterwards. Now, I will tell you, routinely, the effect sizes on these journeys are, well, so psychotropic medicine often has effect sizes of 0.05, 0.10. Psychotherapy, what I do, we're really excited for effect sizes of 0.4, 0.5. These plant medicines have effect sizes of 0.8 to 1.3.
Wow.
So they're way more powerful because they're shutting down that default mode network and you're really getting into your subconscious. But I want to, since you brought up ketamine, ketamine is legal. And there are two ways you could do ketamine. Ketamine is very much like meditation. It's a heart opener. So you're hovering over your body, very similar to breath work, with an open heart, and your default mode network is shut down so you can really process. There are people who will shoot you up to like that full inward journey, like the psilocybin, but the research does not support that. Okay. The research supports what we call a psycholytic state. So whereas the psilocybin was 5 grams, you would get about 3 grams for an average weight person. So you're hovering over your body in that meditative heart open state, but you can have a full conversation. And it's so great because it's very similar to what I do with people with breath work. You can now do somatic work where you're listening to the impulses and all those energies that were stuck in your body. Okay, well, where are you feeling that? Well, what does that energy feel like? What does it want to do? Can you find the edges of that energy? Is it associated with any memory, any feeling? And you can start to do deep work. Also great for internal family systems. Well, okay, so what feeling is coming up for you? Oh, rage. Okay. Is there a memory tied to that rage? When is how young were you when that first came on board for you, that feeling? Because that's when that wounded child was born. And so you usually work with sort of the periphery of it initially, but you can get into the center of where these energies were actually born much, much quicker.
Wow. That is amazing.
Well, and like I said, the effect sizes are strong. I mean, there's research that with psilocybin, with one journey, people who have been alcoholics for years, which is one of the hardest conditions to treat, are routinely sober for 6 months before they need a booster session. Now, any substance abuse disorder is usually 20% success rate or less, 15%. But with psychedelics, it's like an 80 to 90% success rate, and you need a booster session after 6 months. So
and that's it?
Well, yeah, and then you might get to the point you've changed so much because these experiences are so
profound. Yeah,
they're so. So there was a great story of a woman who smoked cigarettes, and she, in her trip, was in this dark cloud. Well, she realized after the fact it was the smoke.
Yes. I can relate. I was a smoker.
And it was that visceral experience of being in the dark cloud and not really being able to find breath was so powerful for her. She she quit that day. Yeah. That was it. That's what she needed. It gets you, just like breath work, the coin of the story we wrap around those events gets flipped, right? So her story was, I need these cigarettes to be calm and alert. I'm sure that was her story.
Yes.
But that coin gets flipped. Oh my gosh, I cannot breathe air with this. This is not helping me. I want to be healthy. The coin flips and it becomes part of your wiring, of your mindset. And you didn't have to effort anything. If we effort a diet, it's like putting our hand on a shaken up soda. It's going to pop off. You can effort, and then it's going to pop off.
Yeah.
You have to change your relationship with the energies. And then it's seamless.
Oh, I love that. I think that's probably the most texts and emails I get. It's like, because we've had some, with some of my clients, they've quantum leaped just by having a fresh perspective or learning the energy behind the problem or seeing it as an energy instead of actually people or conflict, or they quantum leap into a whole nother thing. In a matter of hours, I will get a text, oh my gosh, da da da, or the next day, or they'll feel different, or something major shifted. And it's so fascinating to watch them literally quantum leap and flip that quick. You're just like, what? That's amazing.
It's like the veil dropped, right? There's a veil over our eyes that we can't see, and it drops. And it's like, oh my God, I can see clearly now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't know that about ketamine, and thank you for educating us, because we had a ketamine clinic here. It didn't last very long, or they moved. I'm not really sure, but that was mainly used for drug addiction, I thought.
Its primary FDA approval is for treatment-resistant depression.
Okay.
And
wow.
So a lot of people will go and get the ketamine, but there's nobody doing ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. You're having that journey. It does affect your neurotransmitters. But people that run those clinics, those psychiatrists and doctors will come in, they'll see people sobbing. They had a profound experience, and there was nobody to talk about it with.
Yes, there's no processing after.
And so I know some people that run clinics like that, and they've hired people.
Smart.
Yeah, because it's all about the changing your relationship with those energies, harmonizing.
I love that. So tell us what we need to know about your book and what's in it that people would really resonate with, and, maybe something that your favorite part of the book, or maybe something we just need to know about it. Why should we buy it today? Because I need to know.
I appreciate that, Lillian. So it is a spiritual memoir. I do use storytelling. I'm a psychologist. I could have just given skills, but I think we relate to storytelling. It's how we've passed on knowledge throughout history. And so it really is a primer of what you can expect in letting go of the ego's control over your experience and developing your heart open relationship with love in every moment. And can feel maddening and daunting. There's lots of somatic experiencing and dealing with my own inner children and loving them, because love is the only true healer. So there's lots of experiences of me shedding off traumas, because trauma, the definition is when the demands of the situation exceed your ability to cope. Well, under that definition, we've all had trauma.
Yes.
But it's a primer of what you can expect, and it's interwoven in a love story with my breathwork partner. So I've been in a vibrant marriage for 46 years. I call my husband the guru of love, and he knows enough about what love actually is to know that it doesn't mean that being married means that I'm going to stop having relationships with all people of my sexually compatible gender. And so this is a very honorable love with my breathwork partner. We would just literally get in conscious breath and sit across from each other, gazing into each other's eyes. Well, that's the first level of Tantra. Very powerful. In our society, after childhood, we're all gaze deprived. we're all touch deprived, and we're all affirmation deprived, whether we're in a relationship or not. Well, the love transference, just looking into someone's eyes from that soul place where there is no you, there is no me, it's profound. And then lots of these energies would come up with both of us, and we would love each other through them. Love is the only true healer. So this very unconventional love story is interwoven in the book. I came to realize that he is my twin flame, which I didn't even know what that meant. I had an image in Breathwork of us as two horses with manes and tails of fire running through time, going ahead of each other. And then 3 days later, someone said, I think he's your twin flame. I'm like, what's that? And that's how spirit always works, right?
Yes, always.
And all these events happen. I look up checklists, the ones based in sharing a spiritual work together resonated. I think a lot of the other ones are based in codependent relationships, which aren't healthy. But I hand the list to my breathwork partner, Finn, and he's like, yes, that's exactly how it feels for me. And then his ego got very scared about that, because that's a pretty big free fall. And so that love story is interwoven in, and the lessons of that, of being in these relationships, because every relationship is a practice partner for what's out of alignment with love.
I have goosebumps. I have goosebumps. That's amazing. Oh, you're speaking to my soul. And it's just so interesting how you found me, because you found me.
Yes.
But this is a message I needed to hear. And, it's definitely something that my soul needed to hear. And I think other people's soul needs to hear, because I think, we just get told what to do and how to feel and how to love. And instead of going inside and deciding what is right for you.
Yes.
What is it that you desire or you need, or what your soul needs? And that's like one of my favorite things to say. It's just like, what is your soul saying? Because it's not in the marriage book, and it's not in a rule book. And it's not what someone else's relationship is or someone else's marriage is. It's literally, what is it for you?
Mm-hmm. And we are all God, which means we are all the creators of our lives. We have been the witness to and wrapped the story around every single experience we've ever had. We've created it all. And this might sound controversial to some of your listeners, but the energy we put out magnetically, we draw everything to us, even the things that we might call bad. And yes. I would like to say word energy and thought energy are two of the most powerful energies, along with intention. So if you call it pain, you're going to bring a different energy than if you call it challenge. And you're going to bring an even higher energy if you call it a love squeeze. And that's what I call these things. Our souls want to challenge us so we remember that we are God. But our souls want us to meet those challenges from a relaxed place of presence. I talk a lot about hormetic stressors, which feed our mitochondria. They make them stronger. That is physiologically, the root of all disease is mitochondria dysfunction.
Yeah. I just read about this, I knew this, but I just read in detail because I watched someone's webinar, because I'm obsessed with ozone and healing the mitochondria. And I just watched this whole video, and we're not taught that. We are now, but it's just, I've had 50 years of no one talking about mitochondria. Right?
There are over 10,000 research studies that talk about how mitochondria is the root of all disease.
Right.
It's dysfunction in the mitochondria. Well, one of the biggest hormetic stressors is a cold plunge. If you get in a cold plunge for 5 minutes or less, you will increase your dopamine for 8 hours. There's no drug on the planet that will do that.
Yeah, not even Molly.
Right, right. However, but here's the thing. If you get in that cold plunge and your teeth are chattering and you're shaking, your nervous system is in sympathetic mode, fight or flight. You're getting no benefits. You have to get into that stressor, find your breath. That's the only way I can do it.
Yes.
And remain calm. When you remain calm in the midst of the stressor, you get all of the health benefits. Well, you can apply that to every situation of your life. When you are not in calm, I guarantee you, you are blended with one of those wounded children. So the minute you notice a hook, before you even say the thing that you're going to regret later, you can be in the witness and be like, oh, there's some activation. And I like to, because I've developed a relationship with these children, say, oh, I'm feeling you frustration. I know you're here to help me. I get it. And we'll talk later, but I would like you to hold a vigil for me now so I can remain in my breath and my true nature. And I will come and visit you later. You have to keep your promises to these wounded children because they have a history of being abandoned and not being trusted.
Or shamed and blamed and not integrated with love and harmony, just like you were saying.
But when you don't allow them to blend with you and you can stay in your breath, then you can just observe these hooks and learn from them and move beyond it. It's a much higher way to be.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, we are running out of time. So just why don't you close us out with how do we find you and where can we listen to more about you? Obviously, we're going to get your book. I'm going to get your book because it speaks to me. And where else can we find you? What's your website or?
Sure. My website is essencemerging.com. I have a free download on there, 9 Simple Steps to Awakening. And these are not things to add to your day, but things like coming back to your conscious breath, which you can do while you're going about your day, but it will elevate you out of the mundane into a more sacred relationship with the moments of your life. That's just one of them. I'm on Instagram, Essence Merging, Blue Sky, Facebook, Essence Merging. I have a YouTube channel that teaches how to do breath work. I have 3 videos on there, and it's Essence Merging - Colleen Quinn, PhD.
Okay. That's great. Okay. I'm excited to go on this journey with you. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to you directly on one of your channels or Facebook or Instagram. And I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Lily. And I appreciate you. I feel like we were connected long before today.
Me too. And I just feel like you were so meant to be here sharing your knowledge with us. And I know everybody will appreciate it. And I think a lot of people will resonate with different topics and different ideas that you talked about, because it's kind of like talking to your best friend. You know, it's like, have you thought about your subconscious this? And have you thought about your wounded child this? And have you thought about, you know, your breath work and your accountability here? So it's just lots of good stuff. So Sat Nam.
Sat Nam.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Please use your own discernment and seek professional care when needed.